Good morning. Welcome to DYSL Studio, a self-love zone where yoga is a lifestyle. I'm super excited to share this morning. If you're just joining me, this is going to be a 30-minute restorative flow for all of my yogis with shoulder issues. So if you have some soreness or tightness, mobility issues in your shoulders, this is the flow for you. Go ahead and grab 2 blocks, maybe a pillow if you have one. If not, a rolled up towel or blanket will be fine. And we're going to get started this morning on our backs. Completely lying flat, bringing our head against the mat without the support of the pillow. And just allowing your arms to rest at your sides. Starting in Shavasana, we're just going to take our inhales and exhales through the nose and let yourself unravel on your mat, letting the toes drop out, letting the lungs, ribcage, and belly expand each time you inhale, and then pressing all of the air out every single time you exhale. Most of the times when we experience shoulder pain, the place that we're having the pain is not the point where the pain is beginning or radiating. And this is because of something called trigger points in the body, places in the muscles that get a little contracted in the fibers over time. And those trigger points actually radiate to other places in the body, since the fascia is all connected. And those are the places where we think the pain is starting, instead of actually exploring where the pain really is coming from, which is probably in a different place where that trigger point or that bunched up fiber muscle is. So the first thing we can do to start to relax our muscle fibers is to breathe. As you're taking longer and deeper inhales and exhales, I want you to explore the area around behind the neck. And we all have this little gap between the head and where our shoulders rest on the mat. And while we're not going to eliminate that gap, I do want us to start to understand how to start to shorten that gap. And that would be to start to bring our chin a little closer to the chest. As we do this, if you place your hand behind the neck, you'll notice that the neck is starting to lengthen here. And the gap is getting reduced. This doesn't need to be a super exaggerated movement, but just allow your chin to tilt a bit closer to your chest while you're laying on the mat, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. The next point to explore is the shoulder region, all the way from end to end. Just notice what parts of your shoulders are making contact with the mat. And see if maybe externally rotating your hands, that means bringing your thumbs closer toward the mat. Notice if that changes how much of your shoulder girdle is touching the mat. You should feel a difference there. But we want to encourage you to just spread out on the mat, maybe rolling the shoulders back and down into the mat a few times, just to really experience more width and breath across the back of the shoulders. Your pinky toes may be further dropped out towards the ground, which is absolutely fine. And the last point that we want to explore while we're in the Shavasana starting pose is our tailbone. So it may be hard to feel that right now, but if you take your hand right underneath the tailbone, again, the same gap that we have between the head and the neck, we're going to feel that between the top of the glutes and the middle of the back. And what we want to do here is just imagine a cat back, so that rounding back through the bottom of the spine, and maybe we can start to lessen the gap here. It won't eliminate right away, especially because our legs are extended. But while you're laying flat on your mat, these are some points to explore throughout the head, shoulders, and back region. Continuing to take your inhales and exhales through the nose, and just notice if you're feeling any tightness or tension that you can try to relax and unwind. We're going to step the feet to the mat, bringing a bend to the knee, and wiggle the 10 toes to the mat. And from here, we should really be able to start to tuck the tailbone and completely eliminate that gap between the lower back and those glutes. So now we should feel a full lower spine making contact with the mat. Go ahead and drop your knees from side to side here. You can do that together or one at a time. And continuing to keep that tuck in the tailbone, we're going to inhale the right knee into the chest. We're going to exhale the left leg long onto the mat. Keeping our shoulders and head down, go ahead and point and flex your feet. And continue to take long and full inhales and exhales through your nose. You don't need to pull on the knee or on the leg. You just want to keep it in place with the arms. Step that right foot down onto the mat and inhale your left knee into the chest. Extend your right leg long onto the mat. Maybe you rotate your ankles on this side. And if you notice any space creeping back in between the lower back, just find that rounding, that lower rounding, that cat spine. And try to press the tailbone and lower spine back into the mat. You can set the left foot down, and we're just going to slide that left leg long so that both of our legs are long onto the mat. Keeping our back and glutes and head rooted to the mat, we're just going to walk our feet all the way over to one side of the mat. Whichever side you want to start with is fine. And you're going to walk your legs and feet all the way over to the edge or corner of that mat. Continuing to keep your hips open toward the ceiling, as well as your shoulders and your gaze. Once you've got your legs all the way over to the side of the mat, we're going to do the same thing with our arms. So go ahead and take an inhale and just reach or lift your arms up behind you. Move this pillow out of the way. You're going to reach your arms up behind you on the mat, keeping the palms facing up. And you're going to walk your hands over in the same direction that your legs are. Keeping them against the ground as best you can and extending them over the head, but making sure that both shoulders are still making contact with your mat. And just take a few rounds of breath here with the arms and legs reaching over to one side on the mat or on the ground, and trying to keep as much of your back open and flat. Go ahead and take that stretch back toward the center of the head and walk your feet back toward the center of the mat. You can point and flex the feet here while you're stretching long and straight like the number one. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So start by walking your legs all the way over towards the other side of the mat. Really just your feet can do the walking. Use your heels, whatever feels good. And once you feel a nice lengthening through the back and the legs, you can start to walk the hands over toward that same side. And again, we want to keep the shoulders open toward the ceiling and connected to the mat. You can keep your gaze toward the ceiling if that's more comfortable on your neck, or you can gently tilt the head toward the direction of your legs and arms. Whatever feels best. Take one more breath here, and as you exhale, start to align the head and the arms back towards center, as well as walking the feet. Now we're going to find some broken hockey sticks with our arms. So find a bent elbow, keep the palms open toward the ceiling, let the arms open out to each side. And your legs can be straight and long with the pinky toes again dropping open if that's comfortable. We're going to explore some mobility here on the ground, but before we do that, just take note of where the spine is against the mat and try to find as much length and connection to the spine as possible here. Now as you inhale, I just want you to lift your hands. So you're going to keep your elbows rooted into the sides of the ground. And all you're going to do is inhale and lift both of your hands up toward the sky and bring them down as close to the ground in front of you as possible. Take a full breath here. And we're going to do the same thing. Inhaling the hands back up and bringing the backs of the hands back toward the ground. We're going to do a few rounds of this and just take note of any tightness or tension. You never want to go to the point of pain. So if you're not able to find this full rotation of the arms and hands back and forth, take it to where is comfortable for you without the pain points. One more time. Take your inhale. Bring the palms down toward the ground. And then lift the hands and bring the back of the hands back to the starting position. Excellent. You can allow your arms to just rest on the sides, palms up. And we're going to start to take one of our feet, bring the soles of that foot to the inside of the opposite thigh. So a nice little figure four here. Doesn't matter which side you start with because we're going to do the same thing to both sides. So the sole of the foot should come to the inside of the opposite thigh and allow the knee to drop open. And if this isn't comfortable here, this is a great place to place your block right underneath your leg so that it's more comfortable for your hip opening this morning. And place the block right down on the mat and just allow your knee and the top of that leg to rest there. From here, let's take a deep inhale and again, extend your arms out and over the head and just stretch the arms toward the top of the mat. You may want to roll the shoulders back and down if that feels okay. And then on your next big inhale, allow the arms to open up and come back down to the sides. Extend your bent leg and just give yourself a few moments of rest in neutral Shavasana position. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite leg. So bending the opposite knee, starting to bring the sole of that foot into the thigh of the opposite leg. That should be long. And supporting your knee where needed with a block. Take a few rounds of inhales and exhales here with the arms at the sides. And on your next inhale, again, extend your arms out and reach them back up toward the head. And you may want to roll the shoulders forward or in the opposite direction that you rolled them on the opposite side of the body. We're going to go ahead and start to lift our extended leg and step that foot to the mat and just close both of the knees here. So a nice easy supine twist with both knees now dropping off to one side. And we're going to find those bent hockey stick arms again with the palms facing up so that the shoulders are both pressed into your mat. But this time, your lower spine is probably not connected as your knees are off to one side. Take a deep inhale and now step both of your feet back to center. Readjust your spine and the lower tailbone to press it into the mat. And then start to drop one knee and then the other off to the opposite side. It's okay if the knees don't touch. If you'd like to bring a block between the knees, that's okay as well. But what's important with this stretch is that our shoulders remain flat on the mat and open to the ceiling. Take 2 more rounds of breath here. And then go ahead and step both feet to the mat. Take an inhale and bring your hands up to your knees, and we're just going to slowly rock and roll on our lower tailbone until we come up to a cross-legged seat, Sukhasana. Once you're here in Sukhasana, again, if you need the blocks underneath your knees, feel free to support them there. If you'd like to bring your pillow underneath your seat, if you have any issues with your lower back, with those gluteus muscles, if you want to start to sit on your cushion or your towel, feel free to do that as well. And in Sukhasana, we're just going to allow the hips to feel open, taking our inhales and exhales always through the nose. And we're going to take our hands to the edges of the knees, letting the fingers drop down. And we're going to bring our elbows right on the inside of the body. Swivel around so you can see that better. Hands to knees. We're going to drop the elbows in close towards the body here. And we're just going to want to rock forward and back to make sure we're feeling nice and rooted and connected through our sitting bones, so that we're not leaning all over to one side or the other, or forward or back. We're feeling really, really stable on our seat. And now with those hands on the knees, bringing those elbows close to the body, right to the inside of our waist. We're going to keep our hands rooted to the knees and slowly roll the shoulders back. Bring the spine to a nice and long seat. And we're just going to lift our elbows out. Taking an inhale here, and then exhale, bringing the shoulders back and the elbows down. So we always want to make sure that our shoulders are as far away from our ears as possible when we're working on the shoulder set of muscles. So this movement again, inhaling, lifting your elbows as high as you feel comfortable, and then exhaling, bringing them back toward the body. Make sure your spine stays long through this, and we'll do this about 3 more times. Inhaling here, exhaling, bringing the elbows back towards the body. And just notice where you have limitations in your mobility here. If you notice any shaking of the body or the arms on one side or the other, on the side that may be a little bit of a problem, that's absolutely normal. You may also notice that your shoulders will start to lift on that side. You want to make sure to always keep those shoulders down. Press your chest forward and lift the elbows. Release as you exhale. Go ahead and roll your torso out, making a nice big circle. And then taking the body in the opposite direction. Noticing if you hear any snaps, crackle, or pops through the hips, and just being gentle with your body and the movement here. And from here, we're going to walk our hands toward the back of the glutes so that our fingers are facing our body. And you may need to adjust how close your hands are to your body, but I want you to try to get those palms down and spread through the entirety of your fingers. So your arms may not look straight here, that's fine. You want to feel length through your arms. Don't worry if there's a little bend in the elbow, that's absolutely fine. But you don't want to feel pain here, you just want to feel lengthening. Especially through the top of the shoulders and neck. And while you're here, you may want to inhale and just drop your ear from one shoulder to the other, bringing your head back to center. Keeping those palms flat on the mat and the fingertips nice and spread out. We're just going to start to rotate the neck now. So go ahead and take an inhale and start to look over one of your shoulders. Again, it doesn't matter which one you start with, but notice if you feel any limitation in this movement. As you exhale, you're going to bring your gaze back across through center and then over to the opposite side. You inhale each time your shoulder and your gaze are connected, and you exhale each time the gaze is on the move. So it's an inhale there, and then as you exhale, you're going to bring your gaze across the opposite shoulder. You can do that as many rounds as you like. And then all we're going to do is just flip the position of the fingers. So your fingers were facing the body. Now I want them facing the back of the mat. And here you should find a longer arm. That bend that may have been there in the elbows when the fingertips were placed toward the body should now probably be gone, and you'll have a nice long arm here. And with this position, with the fingers pointed toward the back of the mat, I just want you to spread across your shoulders, press your chest forward just a bit more. Again, palms hopefully are nice and flat. Fingertips may even be a little pressed into the mat. We're going to take an inhale and look up toward the sky, gently lifting the chin. And as we exhale, we're going to bring the chin down toward the chest, lengthening through the back of the neck. We're going to do that about 3 times. Inhaling as you look up, rolling the shoulders back, pressing the chest forward just a bit, and then exhaling, looking down. If you notice that you're feeling any soreness or tightness as you either lift your head up or down, just dial it back a bit. Don't look up as high. Don't bring your chin down toward the chest as much. But take note of where that pain is felt so that you can make sure that the pain is progressively getting better and not worse through your practice. If you find that you're practicing yoga and your pain is getting worse, that means you should back off of the exercises, back off of the load, back off of the number of reps that you're doing, because pain and movement is never what we want in yoga. So now with the hands still here at the back of the glutes, pointed toward the back of the mat. One more time, we're just going to do some ear and head tilts. So drop your ear toward one shoulder, keeping your gaze directly in front. The inhale is with the ear connected to the shoulder. As you exhale, bring your head back through center and drop your opposite ear toward the opposite shoulder. Inhale there, and then exhale when you're on the move. You can do as many rounds of these exercises as you like. I would recommend you do this flow once a day. If your shoulders are experiencing any pain or mobility issues, let me know how it goes in the comment section. All right, from here, we're just going to allow our hands to come back towards the front of the body. Go ahead and take one or two more shoulder rolls in each direction, bringing the shoulders back and then front. And the last thing we want to do is explore probably a movement that we don't like because it gives us that double chin view. But take your two fingers to the bottom of your chin, keeping your gaze steady and your head nice and even. I just want you to press your chin back towards your body so that you're giving yourself the appearance of that double chin. Relax your head and bring the fingers down, and take a few breaths before you try it again with the opposite hand. So your pointer and your middle fingers are going to come just to the center of the chin. And you're pushing your head back to give yourself the appearance of that double chin. And then release. One more time on each side. Opposite hand, two fingers to the chin. Deep inhale. And as you exhale, release the hand and the head. Take a breath of rest in the center. And then take your opposite hand. As you press your fingers back into your chin and your head slides back, that's the inhale. And as you exhale, you can let your head come back to normal, bringing that hand down. So we're going to avoid putting a lot of pressure on our arms and shoulders in this flow. We're not going to do the traditional cat-cows on hands and knees from tabletop. What we are going to do is cat-cow with hands on the knees in Sukhasana. So the exact same motion applies. You're going to inhale to cow, roll your shoulders back, arch your tailbone, and look up. And as you exhale to cat, you're going to round the back of the spine, look down towards your belly or your toes, and really press the back of the back out. So we're inhaling to cow, exhaling to cat. And if you'd like to open those elbows here, feel free. But if that does not feel good on your shoulders, just keep those elbows dropped as they were toward the beginning of class when we did those exercises. We'll do a few more rounds of cat-cow, moving to your breath. And then go ahead and just bring your head and spine to center. Relax your shoulders. Maybe let your palms flip up. And just take a few moments of rest in your neutral sukhasana. Keeping one hand on one knee, we're going to extend our opposite hand off to the side and just place the fingertips down on the outside of the mat. And now flip your palm so that your palm is facing up. This may be a lot on your shoulders if you have tightness. So if that's the case, just bring your hand a little closer to the body. As you get more mobility in your shoulder, your arm will extend further away from the body. But again, we want to avoid pain. So if this reach is too long, just slide your hand a little closer to your body. And from here, keeping our gaze front, keeping our shoulders open to the front of the mat, we're just going to inhale that arm up over the head. And we're going to start to bend the elbow and drop the fingertips toward our opposite ear. And if you can touch the top of your ear or the bottom of your ear, that's absolutely fine. But all we want to do is relax our shoulders, not pressing our arm down on our head, but just allowing that full lengthening over the head all the way through the fingertips. Take one more full breath here. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and start to re-lift that arm. Reach it back down to the side of the body, palm up, and then go ahead and slide your elbow closer to your body. Bring that hand to the knee. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So you're extending your fingertips off to the side of the body, flipping the palm up. That's already a lot of movement if you have mobility issues. So just notice this is rotating your shoulder by flipping your palm. And you may want to just explore what this movement feels like. Maybe using your middle finger as just kind of like the anchor and just opening and rotating your palm around on this lengthening point. From here, with the palm up, again, we're going to inhale. Lift your arm up over the head, bend your elbow, and then drop your fingertips toward the ear. Keeping the spine nice and straight. We'll take 3 breaths here. And your next inhale, just re-lengthen and extend that arm and allow it to reach back down toward the ground. Slide your elbow back in towards the body. We're not going to explore a full twist today because we don't want to put too much tension on the shoulder and in that rotating motion. But what we can do is start to explore a one-handed twist, just extending the hand behind the body. So go ahead and start with your hand, slide it behind your glutes, and maybe reach it for the opposite hip crease. And allow your shoulder to roll back while the fingertips are resting either on the top of the glute or in that hip crease here. Take a deep inhale and exhale. Keep your gaze steady towards the front of the mat. And once you're 2 or 3 breaths in, just allow that hand to come back to the knee. Make sure the spine is nice and straight and the sitting bones still feel stable beneath you. We'll do the same thing on the opposite hand, opposite side. So you're taking that hand, starting to walk it back behind your glutes, and maybe tucking it into the hip crease on the opposite side of the body, but keeping your shoulders and your gaze front. So no twisting of the torso, we're just bringing the hand around the back of the body. Deep inhales and exhales. What your breath is doing while you're holding these poses is it's stretching the muscle fibers, it's lengthening them. It's allowing more space to come in and get those knots that are causing the pain and the trigger points, get them to soften out. So the more deeply you breathe, inhaling and exhaling through the nose, the better you're going to feel after this practice. Go ahead and replace that hand back to the knee. And we're going to start to move into a child's pose with closed knees. So bring your hands to the front of the mat, open the palms and spread the fingertips, and just gently allow your knees to start to walk back. We're going to bring our big toes together. We're going to bring our knees together, and we're going to slowly start to bring the hips back toward those heels. And we're going to walk our forehead down to the mat. If your head is not completely touching the mat, you may want to bring a block underneath your head. I would recommend this block be on the lowest level, not any higher. And you want the center of the forehead to rest on the block. And you're going to start to walk your arms and your fingers as far toward the top of the mat as possible. And start to press the hips further back toward the back of the mat. You really want to use your fingertips to grip the mat so that you're in a state almost of traction here. And you may feel the shoulder relax. You may hear a soft pop. Again, you don't want to do this to the point of pain. So if you can achieve a full stretch with the hands, bring the hands back so that the elbows and the forearms are close down to the mat. And then eventually you can start to walk those fingers forward a bit more as you don't experience pain. And we'll be in this child's pose for about 10 breaths. Make sure you can take your inhales and exhales really, really deeply. You should feel your breath expanding your rib cage all the way around the back, right underneath the shoulder. You can also lift and lower the fingertips using your wrists as the anchor, and then coming back to using the fingertips as the anchor, so that you're pressing and almost pulling on the mat, keeping your arms really, really low. You may find that it's easier if you try to target the top of your hairline for the mat. That gives you the maximum length along the back of your neck. And now we're going to just start to slide the hands closer to the body, nice and slowly. And just notice where you start to feel the most relief. That is probably your starting point. So you never want to start at your max. You want to start where you actually feel just a little bit of an edge. You don't want to start at your full edge. You want to work there. So as you slide your hands back toward the body, you'll feel the point where it's like, oh, I don't feel any stretch. You want to go one step past that and start there, and then work your way to that maximum length. You can start to lift the head as you bring the hands closer to the knees, and allow your torso to come upright, resting on the heels if that's comfortable for you, or bringing a block between the feet and sitting right down on that block. You're going to try a Malasana squat from here. So all we're going to do is step one of our feet so that the toes are pointing toward the outer edge of the mat and the heels are pointing in toward that block. And with the hands maybe in prayer, opening those knees out as wide as possible, but keeping the feet flat on the mat and softening through the glutes, keeping our spine really nice and long. I love supporting Malasana in the morning because the hips never want to be open this much after we've been laying in bed all night long. So a supportive Malasana is a really nice way to start some hip opening, and also we're working on the shoulders and the spine here as well. Take a few deep breaths. Maybe drop the gaze slightly down toward the center of the mat to find the maximum length along the back of your neck. And take about 3 more breaths in your supported Malasana. Wiggle your toes into the mat, and then maybe lift the toes up off the mat, pressing the heels into the ground. Take your hands to the center of the mat, spread through your palms, and all we're going to do is lift up, lengthening the legs, and starting to walk the feet back behind the hands for our Uttanasana, our forward fold. And again, if your hands do not make contact in your forward fold, bring a block underneath the hands. We want the maximum length through our arms, and we want our legs to be nice and long in this Uttanasana. Let your gaze come back toward the back of your mat, and gently just nod your head yes. Maybe shake the head no. Maybe you hang out completely, grabbing the opposite elbows or swaying from side to side. Take about 3 more breaths in your forward fold. Now maybe you can take your hands to the back of your heels. Maybe you can interlace the hands behind the legs. If not, it's okay to take the feet a little closer together But keeping the gaze between the legs back toward the mat, we want to just explore a movement where we're going to keep our fingers interlaced and we're just going to slowly start to slide them up the back of the legs. Continue to breathe as you slide your hands all the way up, and just notice if you're feeling any pain in any part of your shoulders to stop. But eventually we want to get our hands right on our sit bones so that the thumb is literally pressing into that sit bone. Keep your fingertips interlaced here, and we're going to find a half lift on our inhale. So taking an inhale, keep the hands pressed into the sit bones and just lift your head and torso until you're in a 90-degree angle with your body and your legs. Your exhale is just going to allow the torso to come back down, keeping those hands right where they are on the sit bones. We'll do that 3 more times. Press into your feet as you inhale and lift your torso to that halfway mark. And notice if you can relax the shoulders back. And then exhale, bring yourself back down. 2 more of those. Press the palms into those sit bones. Spread through the feet. Keep the legs nice and long. And then exhale, fold back down. Last one. And exhale. Let your arms just hang out. Soften the knees even more than they were and start to unravel your spine, stacking your vertebrae one at a time from lowest to highest until you roll the shoulders back and then the head lifts last. Excellent. Just a few more poses here and we'll be all done. In Tadasana, feet hip distance apart and your arms are down at the side. We're just going to inhale the arms up over the head. Bring your palms together and exhale them back down. Really reaching through the fingertips and exploring this range of motion. Noticing where the resistance starts and stopping if you feel any pain. If this is where you need to stop, then you stop here and you come back down. Do not continue your range of motion if it's painful. Eventually, by continuing to work on these asana, you'll experience the full range of motion that you're looking for. We'll just do this one more time. On your inhale, you're lifting the arms up to prayer over the head. And on your exhale, you're bringing the hands down. Wonderful. We're going to inhale the arms over the head now. And we're going to drop our hands, reaching them forward. Palms are going to be down. And we're going to bring the hands all the way down to the sides of the body. Let's do that again. Inhale, palms come together and up over the head. And then drop your palms down and reach your fingers forward as you exhale. One more time. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute to prayer. And then let the fingers separate and reach the fingers and the hands forward, palms coming down. Excellent. Slowly soften the knees. Take a deep inhale. Arms can come up. Maybe you look up this time. And with the hands in prayer, I just want you to let the arms bend to one side You're going to press the hip out to the opposite side, and then you're inhaling back up, releasing your arms back down to the sides. So your inhale, lift the hands to prayer in Urdhva Hastasana. Your exhale, allow your arms to tilt over to the other side, pressing that hip out. And then come back up to center as you inhale. Exhale the hands back down. One more time on each side. Inhale, arms up to Urdhva. Maybe you look up. Exhale, arms to one side, palms are together. Press the hips out, keep the body open to the center. And then the inhale brings the arms back up. The exhale brings the hands back down. Last time, opposite side. Inhale, arms come up to prayer. And exhale, tilt the arms, press the hip out gently. Inhale back to center. And exhale, relax. I hope you found these exercises useful and helpful to relieve tension across the scapula, your traps, and all of the muscles that are connecting the sides of the rib cage. Those are most likely the muscles that have the pain points. So if you're experiencing shoulder or neck tightness and you think it could be your rotator cuff or your shoulder here, most likely it's actually coming from your traps, your scapula, and these muscles right here. Definitely be gentle with your body as you work through your mobility and your pain. If you have them, I definitely recommend heat. If you have access to a sauna or even a heating pad, allowing yourself to bring your back onto that heating pad, placing the pad right along this part of your body where your traps are, and even right up here along the scapula and in these muscles here. Laying yourself on your back with that heat may really start to soften those muscle fibers that are knotted up and causing you the pain and the limited mobility. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to book a private session with me on Zoom, feel free to send an email to dyslstudio@gmail.com. I will be back next week with more practice. Enjoy the week until then. Thank you so much. Namaste.